Seahawks Nation, 12th man around the world. This is Paul Byer, your host of the 12 for 12 show. Wow, wow, wow. Where do you start tonight? I am really excited for the show this evening. A little later, I'm going to be joined by the Dirty Chinaman, the editor-chief, blog, postmaster of the TezBaugh blog spot. Please find him. He's absolutely hysterical. The Dirty Chinaman and I are going to talk about many a subject regarding our Seattle Seahawks. Hello, 12th men, Seahawks Nation. This is Paul Byer. This is the 12 for 12 show. I am now joined by somebody that should be very apparent to everybody out there as a Seahawks fan, but he is fantastic. His name is the Dirty Chinaman on Twitter. His real name is Steve. He's allowed me to say that tonight, and I am really happy to have him here on. He is the blogger for his own Hawk the TezBaugh blog, which is awesome. So please check it out. I'm going to let him talk about that later as well. But right now I just want to say, hey, how's it going tonight, Steve?
Good, man. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it. There's a billion Chinamen out there, and you decided to have me be the one on, so that was pretty cool.
Hey, I do what I can. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, we're obviously going to talk a lot about last night's game and just some of the different subject matter revolving around it. But to start, why don't we go ahead and just have you take some time here to tell the 12s about yourself and what you do and how you became a Seahawks fan.
I actually grew up in Pennsylvania and spent there. I was there until probably the late 90s. And as a kid, I should have been a Steeler fan because I was right in Steeler country. My hometown was actually Erie, PA. And when I was a kid, my parents actually met in Seattle. So there's that connection. And when I was growing up, one of my relatives, my aunt, was in Seattle. And when I was probably about 8 years old for Christmas, she sent me a Seahawks T-shirt for my gift. And it was it just kind of clicked. Like I liked the logo, I liked the shirt, the colors. For some reason, I just liked it more than the black and gold. And just from then on, I just never wavered. So ever since I was about 8 years old, this is now 30 years as a fan, and luckily, this is. In 30 years, I've never been happier. After last night, how could you be happier in 3 decades? But yeah, that's just a very, very quick little summary. And one thing, it was tough. Honestly, I took a lot of flack, especially in lean years in the Ken Behring era. Why are you a Seahawks fan? Why are you a Seahawks fan? Well, I love my team. And as bad as they got, you just never wavered. It just never occurred to me to choose Pittsburgh and to root for anyone else. So that's kind of it.
Well, thank God you're not a Steelers fan because I'd have to hang up on you right now.
Oh, that's fine. At least my brother's not going to call him. My brother's actually a Steelers fan. He grew up, and it really is kind of shocking because I took a lot of what he was. He influenced me quite a bit, but that was like the one thing that was my own. I'm like, I'm a Seahawks fan. So
how was the 2000? I guess it would have been the 2005 Thanksgiving meal because after the Super Bowl, was their hands around each other's necks? What happened?
It was a good thing we haven't lived within 2,000 miles of each other for quite some time. So. He's still on the East Coast. He's still in Pennsylvania, and when we realized we were facing each other, there was kind of like this kind of agreement. We're not going to talk to each other. We're not going to trash talk, and we actually did hold to that. But I think given how the Steelers won that game, he's actually been pretty respectful about it. He hasn't really said much. Every once in a while, something will come up, and I'll make a comment about the refs or something, and then it'll go off the hinges. But for the most part, he's actually been pretty cool about it.
Oh, that's good. It's been tough living in this last few years every time I see a Pittsburgh fan or a shirt, I just want to go up and do something very bad. But hey, what do you do? Well, you have the Hawk to TezBaugh blog, which I think is hysterical. And why don't you take a few minutes to share with everybody? You bet. And why don't you take a few minutes to share with everybody how you started it, when you started it, and why you do it? I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize how much goes into writing, especially long pieces that have actual information in it. And why don't you tell everybody about how it all comes to be and why you do it?
I've always been interested in writing. I've always liked and enjoyed writing. I've done little fiction stuff. And part of me kind of wants to be a writer someday, but it's when I started thinking about what I was going to write about, it was kind of like, well, you write what you know, and this is really the only subject that I could consistently write about that I knew enough about. And so I was actually thinking about starting the blog before last season. And I just didn't, I didn't take the time to do it, and kind of, next thing you know, the season started, and I was like, I'm not going to do it this year. And then last year, right around the playoffs, I was on Twitter for a good probably a year before I started actually gaining followers, and it happened like right before the Redskins game. All of a sudden, the 12 follow 12 hashtag went out, and I went from like 15 followers up to probably 100 in like a week. And then that became like 150 and then 200. It just kept growing and growing. It kept, people kept leeching on. And at one point, I'm just like, I have all these people. I'm going to start tweeting. Now's the time. If I'm going to do it at all, now's the time I'm going to do this blog. And so in the summer, I have plenty of time off in the summer. So I had the time to I had, first few posts sketched out, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to write. And kind of through caution to the wind, I didn't really care what people thought. I just started writing. I just wanted to write. And I've always kind of taken the stance that if it ever got to a point where I thought, well, gosh, I don't want to write because it's work. I've got to take care of this post now. It's been fun. It hasn't gotten to that point, so I've really enjoyed it, and I've gotten a good response from it. So it's kind of kept it going. And it has been tough with, my real job to even one post a week. It is a time commitment. It usually takes me like an hour to do a post, but they're fun. I really enjoy doing it. So when it's this fun, especially this season. If it was any other season, it might not have been as fun. But I think I chose probably the best year possible to get it going.
Bingo on that. I mean, it for what I'm doing with my website. And by the way, thank you for providing a few articles and in contribution with what you have going on. And it's just it is hard to write and do all this, especially it's a big commitment, especially with everything else we obviously got going on in our lives. But we do it. No one's getting paid. We're doing this for the fandom of it, and we just love our team that much, and we get to do it together. It's kind of a personal high. I guess that's how I would describe it. But you do great work, and for everybody out there, please check it out if you haven't already. Let's talk about the game last night. I mean, this is the easy part, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you give me your thoughts on the game and what you saw, other than everybody else in the world? How did we dominate the Saints so easily?
Man, I wish I knew. I mean, going into the game, I listened to what you were saying earlier, how confident you were. You weren't scared at all about this game, and I was kind of in the same boat. Like I think the official prediction I tweeted was 34-24, and part of me really wanted to make it a wider margin than that, because I really did think that we kind of had an edge, but I had no clue it would be 34-7. And that first drive, when the Saints' first drive, that 3-and-out, it really kind of caught me by surprise, because that was the last thing I expected. Everything I heard this week about how great the Saints' offense was, I figured it would be either a shootout or just be one of those tense games where, like when we faced Houston, where we just couldn't stop them for the life of us. I figured that's kind of how it was going to be. So they go out there 3-and-out, and it was just kind of it caught me off guard. I was like, wow, we forced a 3-and-out. Like, what? Awesome, that's great. I didn't expect it again. And then we go down and have that really nice drive, 3-0. Then the second time they get the ball, there's that the fumble, the Averill and Bennett running in for the touchdown. And then at that point, I was like, oh, it's done. It's kind of it's over. And the striking thing to me is just how, a lot of times in these games when you go up that early with, a 10-point lead, so many times a team will go up 14-0, 17-0 early on, and it's kind of like too much too soon. The next thing you know, the other team kind of slowly but surely kind of chips away at that lead, and next thing you know, it's a tied game, and next thing you know, it's overtime. Part of me had that feeling, but then once we hit 17-0, I was kind of like, oh, this game's over. This game's over. It's just, you come out of the crowd with how that defense played. I mean, that was the stunning thing. The word stunning keeps coming back to me because that defense, that was maybe the best I've ever seen a Seattle defense play. You can make your argument for the second week 2 against the Niners this year. That was quite a display. But last night was truly amazing. Breeze never got on track. He was constantly pressured. He never, he always, whenever he did connect with someone, they were tackled in an instant. They're always. I wish I knew. I would try to look up the yards after the catch. I couldn't find it anywhere, but it seemed like they had minimal, and that's one of their strengths too. The Saints always they throw those short passes. Next thing you know, it's 15, 20 yards, 30 yards. As soon as they caught the ball, it was like within a yard that the Hawks were on them, and it kind of reinforced just how, first of all, deep and talented the defense is, but second, how fast they are, especially Earl Thomas. I mean, they are all over the field. So that was just, still blows my mind. You were stating some of the numbers earlier. All the 3 and outs and the 188 total yards. I mean, this is the Saints we're talking about. This is Drew Brees, and this is less than 200 yards. I mean, I think it was 10 years. I think 2003 is the last time the Saints were under 200 yards, and it was before Brees was there.
Yep.
So if that's not a statement, I don't know what is.
I think a lot of people have been talking about the Legion of Boom, obviously, with Maxey and Jeremy Lane's performance coming in, and just people not really knowing about them unless you were probably knee deep in the roster like we are. But I really give so much credit to our linebackers yesterday, and I was actually looking at Bleacher Report earlier, and they graded them like in the B- range. I'm like, who are these idiots? I mean, do they even know? Do they watch the game? Because literally, if it wasn't for, it was like you said, every time Sproles or whoever caught a ball in the flat or on a screen, we had a guy sitting literally right there. It was a linebacker, and then we were also covering Jimmy Graham and shutting him down. It's just there. And on the other side, the New Orleans linebackers. One thing I noticed last night, they were trying to run on our read option. They were trying to defend it with similar method that the Colts used, which was they were having the end crash immediately on the run to hit Marshawn, and then they were bringing a linebacker on the backside. His responsibility was Russell. Well, their linebackers played horrible because they never even got close to Russell. They were always caught inside because they thought the fake was going to Marshawn. So, again, it just, tale of two teams, tale of two units. Again, they're not a bad team, and that's what's so ironic about this whole thing is that we dominated them so easily.
Yeah, they did not. I mean, they looked out of the league last night, and when you mentioned it, made me think when they shut down Lynch, right? They took care of Lynch, they contained him. But then Wilson goes off for over 300, 3 touchdowns, and that's, you mentioned they called him, and I saw this on the post game. They called him he's a great game manager. He's a great manager.
I hate that.
It was really I took umbrage at it. I was kind of insulted because, Trent Dilfer was a game manager. The implications is that, he's just not going to go screw it up. Like, Wilson wasn't managing the game. Wilson controlled the game. Every time he threw the ball, I expected a 10 to 12-yard pass, and most of the times it was, unless it was a 60-yard pass to Zach Miller. He was aggressive. He took it to him like he had almost 47 rushing yards. I mean, that's not a game manager. That's a guy that has complete control of the game. You know, when Lynch is shut down, okay, well, here comes Wilson. He's gonna just take over. So.
Yeah, I fall back on the explosive play number. You know, we're one of the, if not number one, I think the Saints were number one, and we were right behind them. But the total explosive plays measured at 20 yards or more, we had 5 to their 2 in this game, and we had 3 more that we were literally 4 yards away, whether it was 19 twice and 17 once, from being at 20. I mean, it's just, again, we were so close to having literally 8 explosive plays. It's just, again, it's mind-blowing. But let's talk about the noise. Now, I don't know how many games you've been able to come back here and see. I'm sure more than a few. And I've been in the clink many a time. But from the noise standpoint, I know how loud it can get. The loudest game for me was that Tony Romo dropped fumble. That was the loudest moment I've ever heard in my entire life in any one sporting event. I've seen a lot of sporting events around the country. But in your opinion, just to tell everybody, you know, from someone that, you know, doesn't necessarily live here in the area, you know, is the noise a BS or is this noise, is it real?
I think it's definitely real now. I'll admit that, embarrassingly, I have never been to a game in Seattle. I've never been to a Seahawks game in Seattle. That is changing this year. We have plans to go to the Rams game, so I will experience it at some point. But the noise itself, I don't think is BS. I think it does affect people. I mean, it's getting to the point where I think I saw it today. There was a Niners fan that created a petition to penalize us, or I think it was do something to our stadiums to reduce the noise level because the other teams cannot. And it was, of course, a Niner fan. But you know, when other fans are doing that, yes, it is true. Now, as far as just like the record, you know, Guinness came out and did this record. I don't care about that, honestly. But as far as just creating, you know, an influencing game, yeah, I'm sure it can, and that's why every team right now is scared, because we're going to get that number 1 seed. No one wants to come to Seattle. No one wants to play there, and I think that is part of it. It's not the whole, but it's part of it.
Yeah, I watched NFL Live up at DVR when I got home, and you know, I want to obviously fast forward through a lot of it, but Trey Wingo mentioned how the next closest NFL city to Seattle is 800 miles. And what that reaffirmed in my mind is how that East Coast media really thinks of how not only the noise thing is, like we said, one thing, but they really think we're out in the middle of nowhere here in Seattle. I mean, it's like we might as well be China. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, it's like, there's this thing called an airplane. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it might as well be China except for the child labor. That's the only thing.
Touche.
You know, the East Coast bias is a real thing, though. I mean, you know, there's so much. You know, what happened with the Patriots? The Patriots last weekend barely beat an awful Texans team. But of course, all the coverage I saw on NFL Live was how great. Oh, look at what did the Patriots do to win this game? Look how great they are.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen this year. You know, we beat someone. It's more. Oh, how did this other team choke? You know, it's always been that way. And I think that was one thing that was different about the coverage last night. They are starting, I think, to give a little more respect to the team now. Of course, it only took us to get to 11-1 with a 3-game lead in the division, but I think finally some of these commentators are giving them some respect in that they're now talking about how good this team really is instead of what the other team did to fail.
Well, that's a good segue, because that gets into our next topic of our 12 tonight, which is the national punditry, as I'm calling them. And I called this topic, who do these guys think they are? And it's like you said, they have started to come around a little bit, but you know, there's one of the guys I put on my list that I actually didn't write down, but I just by watching NFL Live, it reminded me, you know, Mark Brunell is a local guy. Now, I grew up here, okay, and there's a club in the middle of Bellevue called the Bellevue Athletic Club, pretty nice club to be a member at. And in high school, we'd go with a friend of ours in high school, and we'd go play basketball there. And Mark Brunell was literally just going into the University of Washington. He became a stud, won national championship, the whole thing with the Huskies. Well, This guy he's from here. This is his home, okay?
Right.
And if you go watch him on NFL Live, other than today, he literally just talks about how we're really not that, we really haven't shown anything. We haven't played anybody. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, granted, he's lived his professional life outside of the area, but it's just so evident that nobody wants anything to do with us. And like you said, they're starting to come around a little bit, but it, to me, feels like they're missing out. It's kind of like what Pete Carroll's been talking about with the guys that can't play when they're hurt or whatever, Percy Harvin or Walter Thurman or Brandon Browner. They're missing out. He feels bad that they're not able to be a part of this. I kind of feel bad for the pundits because they're not able to enjoy or see the greatness in what's happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that to an extent. I think I just had a thought in my head too. Oh, dude, it's gone. It's gone forever. Yeah. What the heck was I going to say?
Well, think about it just for a second. I'll say this.
Yeah. Okay.
Skip Bayless this morning. I do watch the opening take, whatever it's called, and Skip Bayless, who the only thing I have to share with the man, unfortunately, is that we're both Oklahoma Sooner fans, and I hate that fact. But Stephen A. Smith, I've always respected. I definitely like him in the basketball NBA area, but he definitely doesn't come across as a guy who even probably watches NFL games. I know Skip Bayless does, but Skip Bayless was talking about before how beat up our defense is. I mean, it's like they're just looking for reasons not to like us, right? Okay. And Stephen A. Smith was talking about Russell Wilson, and really they don't have any weapons, and Russell Wilson's, like you said, a game manager. I mean, do you think these guys even watch Seahawks games? That's really what I think it comes down to.
I think when they're forced to. I think if it's a Sunday night game, if it's a Monday night game, then all of a sudden, hey, let's learn these players' names. Let's go to Seattle and throw some fish around at the market because that's really cool and unique. But that's about it, and that's that drives my mind when you mention looking for a reason to discount us, because as soon as there was a suspension, as soon as Browner was out, as soon as Thurman was suspended, it was like, okay, you're missing one guy in your defense. Now the Seahawks are not as good as everyone thought they were. Now we're going to see the real team, quote unquote. Now they're going to lose games at home and so on. And so, any little thing that happens. And then granted, there wasn't, a suspension is not a little thing. But when Hardman went down again, Hardman's out. You guys are going to lose now because you don't have Hardman. So it just seems like they're so picky. They're always looking for something about the Seahawks to just say, let's not take them seriously anymore. Let's go back to the Patriots and the Niners and so on. And the Steelers.
RG3.
Right, RG3, exactly. And what a joke that's turned out to be, The one thing I'll give Dan, I listen to Dan Patrick in the mornings, and I'll give him credit this morning. He said, he started talking about Wilson, and, had great things, real nice things to say about him, about how he commands a room and how great a leader he is. And then he brought up RG3, and he's like, and, RG3 really has to watch Russell Wilson play so he knows how to slide, But I just think as soon as, next weekend maybe, let's say, God forbid, let's say we lose at San Francisco, as soon as that happens, Niners are back. Seahawks, there's a chance the Niners can take the division now. You're going to hear that if we happen to lose next weekend, which I don't think we will, by the way. But if that happens, that's all you're going to hear. Colin Kaepernick's great, okay.
And what's funny about that is earlier in the year, I truly believe I cracked the code on him. I'm sure I'm not the only person in NFL punditry. Like, first of all, the Seahawks organization, they obviously have cracked the code on him as well. Yeah. He's just too one-dimensional in who he throws the ball to. And after his first or second progression, the guy's lost, and that's why he always turns and runs. As long as you have a defense that can contain him, you're going to beat the San Francisco 49ers. You got to stop the run, and you got to contain him. If you do that, game, set, match. And you saw that with Carolina and what they were able to do against them. And you obviously saw that with the Colts, of a team that, honestly, who knows where they're going to end up at the end of this year. But, they did that same thing as well. They were just physical and out-physical them. And really, outside of really 2 plays, we would have won that Colts game. I mean, that was a fluky, crazy game. So,
yeah.
But again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's the NFL. Any team can win on any given day. And it's like you said, we might lose this week. I'm not saying we are. I agree with you. I don't think we are. But it's the NFL. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. I just think that looking at Kaepernick the last couple of weeks, I mean, it's funny what happens when he plays an actual good defense. Like you mentioned, the Panthers or the Colts. All of a sudden, he's nothing. He's either throwing for 350 yards or he's throwing for 100 and 2 picks.
Yeah, passer rating of 20.
Yeah, but hey, he kisses biceps, so that's fine. So then he makes the highlights, And he's got a lot of tattoos. Don't forget the tattoos.
Oh my! I'm not going to get into it. It's just look. The fact is that Russell Wilson is playing on another level. If anybody with true sense can see it, and like I said, I think the pundits are doing themselves a disservice, and really the nation that they represent and trying to give information to, because that's really their job, in accurately depicting this guy because he's so special. So. That kind of segues into my next topic. I want to talk about, I call it the 3-headed monster. And when I talk about the 3-headed monster, I define that with the Seahawks as the offense, the defense, and the special teams.
Right.
Now, I don't think that we're still at 100%. I mean, in all those areas. We could be better in all 3 phases. But this last game, how we played, we dominated all 3 phases. What's your thoughts about our offense, defense, special teams, and how we are, where we are as in max capability, I guess?
I think yesterday was the closest we've come to seeing this team hit on all 3 of those areas. I think most games you can point to, well, the defense was off. I mean, the Tampa Bay game, you gave up 21. You give them a 21-point lead. Defense is off that game, and plenty of games, the offense kind of takes 2 or 3 drives to really get going. But last night was just everything was perfect, right from the get-go. And I think that's what's got to be scary from any other team's standpoint, that when everything is hitting, I don't think there's a team that can beat us in either NFC or AFC. I really don't. The one thing, like last night, the offense was so efficient. The Saints one drive. So here's one cylinder, the defense. The Saints offense, the one scoring drive they had took over 8 minutes. So grind it out. They had to work hard for that touchdown. And they got those few calls too. They got those few like 3rd down penalty calls. But our offense flipped the switch. I think the longest scoring drive we had was 5:45 maybe. And all of them were, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I mean, it was so efficient. It was so just going right down the field. So when that happens, I think the only team that has a chance, honestly, in the NFC is the Panthers. That's the one team where I would be a little bit worried, just because their defense is so good. And the last thing I would want is for them to come in and get into one of those, 9-6 games. That's the only thing that would worry me. But at the same time, this is the beauty of this team is that, well, there's that other thing. The defense is so strong that I'm okay. Well, if our offense doesn't score this drive, okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Our defense is going to take care of this. Defense has it. Legion of Boom has it. And that's what's so comforting about this team. Like 15 punt return yards allowed the whole season. Oh, we're gonna punt. Okay, but we're just going to pin them back. I mean, it's just an automatic. They're going to be within their, inside their own 20. Now our defense goes on the field. Oh, okay, we got it. We're fine. And that's the beauty of this team, how great this team is, that all 3 cylinders clicking, no one can beat us.
We forget so easily about the special teams. You mentioned that punt return yardage given up. It's 45 inches. That's how much we give up per punt return. Yeah. 45 inches.
And it's shocking. Like when I first heard that stat, I think 2 weeks ago is when that stat first kind of made the rounds. I was just like, what is that for 15 yards? Is that what, 1 quarter? Is that 1 game? What? Oh, the whole season? Are you kidding me? 15 return yard. I mean, a Golden Tate gets that on 1 carry. You know?
Yeah. It is shocking, and it's like you said, when you have all three of these running in synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. We are literally just so. It's like they feed off one another, which is kind of a whole nother thing when you get that gel. And that I remember that from 2005, how I felt we were so gelled on both sides of the ball, special teams. We could have gone the distance almost at any time. We were scoring special teams touchdowns, especially in C-Link. It seems like we're on special teams. We do so well, and we score points defensively through special teams so easily. But really, it's so balanced. That's when you talk about efficiency. The balance of what our offense does. It's like you said, pick your poison team, a defensive team. What do you want to do? Do you want to stop our run? Put 8-9 guys in the box, stop Marshawn Lynch? Well, he's fine resting, for a full half like he did yesterday and being perfectly zoned, ready to go for the postseason. Thank you. We'll just put Robin Turbin in, and we'll throw for 340 yards. It's no big deal. And then our defense just shuts you down and literally is happy doing it and tells you the whole game how much better they are. My mom, I talked to her on the phone today, and she's like, does it seem like they are giving those guys a hard time? I'm like, Mom, it's actually part of the mental side of the game. When you not only tell the person you're going to do it to them and then shut them down and then actually do it, it really puts them in a whole different light, and it prepares them for the next game so that they know that you're there. And again, with two of your best players not even playing in that backfield, again, it's mind blowing the depth this team has.
I think the only part of these three cylinders I would say that I would want to improve is we don't have Leon Washington anymore. He was such a so explosive. Like any carry could have been, any kick return could have been a touchdown. We don't have that in the kick return game. And I know we're all wanting Percy to get there, and I think he'll be that guy whenever he does come back. But and this is being so nitpicky, like that's the only thing that I think we're missing. But putting back on the trash talk, isn't that great that we can talk about a Seahawks team that has the swagger, that has that will trash talk? I mean, they started, about 2 years ago probably. You started to see the attitude of this team kind of gel, kind of form. I think one of the first plays that really cemented it for me last year was in Dallas when Golden Tate had the block on was it Sean Lee, and he put him on his butt and he got him, started jarring at him, and it was just kind of like I looked at that and it was foreign, I think, to us as Seahawks fans to see our team acting like that. We're always so nice and like be classy, but then once I saw that I was like I want my team to be like that. And the next thing you know, the entire defense is doing that, and it's so refreshing. It's so great to have this brutally physical team that's going to get in your face and trash talk and then back it up and then go and win 34-7.
It reminds me of the Miami Hurricanes in the 80s, and I was a Sooner fan, so I wasn't a big Hurricane fan, and I hated them for doing what they did. But as I got older, I respected their swagger because I know how big of a mental part in playing college football myself, how much that meant to really taking your opponent and putting them in a place where they couldn't come back to compete with you. Moving the conversation along to our next topic, we're about 24 minutes or so from being done, but I'm going to stick about 8 more minutes with you, okay, Steve?
Okay, got it.
Let's talk about Percy because I'm skipping ahead one topic, but since you brought him up, this week, just so everyone knows, the latest update. He had a procedure done last week. They didn't obviously talk about it. Pete Carroll mentioned it today, and apparently it was some type of draining of fluid. But long story short is he came in today and talked to Pete and said he feels great. Apparently, everything they did last week, just trying to get him ready, he was pretty close, but he just wasn't. And who knows, again, if he's going to play this week. But apparently, there is this guy named Percy Harvin that might play for us at some point in time. So,
he's out there.
I call it the Percy effect, and I understand now why Vikings fans got into this, I guess I'll probably call it unsymbiotic relationship with him. It was very frictional, and I know some Vikings fans. I went to school in Minnesota. They don't like the guy. and it's because of this type of issue where they didn't know that guy was ever going to play. Just was bad communication. And I think the good thing about our scenario with him and having him on the team is that we've done so well without him. And so it's like this, we don't feel like we necessarily need him, but it's just an add-on, throw him, a little fine-tuning to the engine. What are your thoughts on Percy Harvin, and how do you think this is all going to play out ultimately? And is he going to really have an impact on this season for us?
I don't think they should play him. I think with all these issues, I'm fine with the team being patient. We're 11-1. We win next week and we have the division, and we're doing fine without him. He's touched the ball twice this year, literally, and we're still 11-1. So I'm good with just let him be healthy, let him get healthy if there is such a thing for him, or as much as he can be, and then hopefully let's get him back to the playoffs. Let's throw him in there. Once the playoffs hit, then there's another added wrinkle. Another thing the defenses have to worry about. The one thing that surprised me actually is that hasn't come up with him, and I'm not going to. What as I say this, but I seem to remember in Minnesota he had all those problems with the migraines. I mean, I remember there was a couple games he was out because of those, and it's kind of like that's the one thing we haven't heard about yet. So that's actually what surprised me here so far. Now, as far as just, you mentioned the Viking fans kind of, not being antagonistic with them, not liking them. I'm not there. I won't be for at least even this year. Obviously we win the Super Bowl. Who cares what his health is at this point? But next year, when we've spent this first round pick on him, what happens at the end of next year if he's still next year going through all these problems, or 2 years from now? That's when I think probably I think he's got I'll give him a 2-year statute of limitations here. After 2 years, I think then it's kind of like if he's still having those issues, we can be a little frustrated with him. But again, if there's a Lombardi in there somewhere, I don't think people are going to care. I don't think people are going to really be too concerned with it. I think it's just more of if he's not in, this weekend, Niner fans, well, Percy Harvin's not playing. We're totally gonna beat you. That's really all it is. It's fuel for the other team's fire.
That's a Niner fan for you right there. Absolute non-facts. Just make stuff up as you go. But yeah, you're right. And look, I think they've managed it about as good as you can. The situation. I've appreciated how he hasn't come out and been very public about it. It seems like he's on the same wavelength with Pete and John and the staff regarding not getting too far out on Twitter and Facebook and just making news that we don't need to make. And this team is focused. That's the thing I find so unreal is how Pete is able to get these guys, all of them, on the same page. I mean, and these guys are all different people. They all different makes of money and whatnot. They're so poised and so on the same page. It's unreal. But that moves us on to our next question. And we talked about MVP. We could talk about MVP of this team, but we're really now talking about the bigger MVP, the MVP of the National Football League. This everybody's now starting to say, okay, is Russell Wilson part of this conversation? Well, I'll just make this real easy for you. In your opinion, does Russell Wilson deserve to be part of this conversation? And ultimately, does he even have a chance of winning the award?
He 100% deserves to be part of it. I don't think he has a chance of winning it, though. I think it's Manning all the way. And first of all, let's recognize the fact that the MVP is just a glorified QB award. Except for, last year was the one exception with AP winning it. But it's just QBs every year. So, yeah, I think Wilson will be part of the conversation. But I think with the numbers that Manning is putting up, no sports writer is going to ignore that. No sports writer is going to look at what Wilson is doing with his record and everything and then go, oh, he should be MVP. So I think Manning, there's no doubt I think Manning is going to win the award. I don't think he should, but he's going to now. I actually think beyond even Russell Wilson, 100% believe he should be. He's the Seahawks MVP, but the NFL MVP is always QBs and offense. But when you think about Seattle, you think about their defense now. And to me, Earl Thomas is the unquestioned MVP of that defense. So why isn't in this MVP discussion if Seattle has the number one defense, this guy is the unquestioned leader of that number one defense, why isn't Earl Thomas part of that conversation also? And this is, I'm not going to change any minds here, or no sports writers going to listen to this and be like, oh, I'm gonna vote for ET. But I just feel like you should give him a vote. I just want one writer to give Earl Thomas a vote for MVP. I think it's absolutely deserved.
It's funny you bring that up because I really appreciated John Gruden talking about it last night. They had some clips. They did that MVP or something cam thing where they put cams on their helmets and had Earl running practice simulated routes and whatnot, defending him just to show his speed. It's exactly what you said. If he's not the defensive player of the year, there's something wrong with that. That whole award's broke. I think you're right. A lot like the Heisman in college. I think what they actually say and relate to the factors that it takes to win that award, it really just becomes a glorified quarterback award. But guess, guys, there's actually an offensive MVP award too. So, the MVP, right. we all know what it is, and I don't think this team cares about the award. The only award they care about is the one that says Lombardi on it.
Right.
And I looked at the numbers. I looked at it today. I just took Peyton, Tom Brady, and Russell's numbers, and it is definitely blaringly different. But the one thing that, ironically, Russell beats all of them on is efficiency. He's, especially over the last 10 games, he's actually got a better quarterback rating by 14 points, and he actually has a higher completion rate than Peyton Manning over the last 10 games. And how you measure how good a player is it in the wins losses? Is it in his stats? Right. I ultimately only care about the wins and losses.
That's it, and that's the thing. It's so hard to quantify value. I think actually one other guy that should get consideration, not Seahawks, not Broncos. I think Aaron Rodgers should get consideration just because, he's injured. But look at what happened to the Packers when he got injured.
Sure.
That to me is value. If you take him away from the team, what does the team become? And that's impossible to measure. And that's, unfortunately, you can't see unless someone actually does get injured.
I'm knocking on wood as you speak. Just
right,
FYI,
yeah,
I'm literally knocking on wood.
I almost forgot to. I'm good. But yeah, it's so hard to quantify. And even when you bring up the QB rating, even the whole year. Who's number 2 QB rating in the whole league? It's Wilson. I think Foles is up there, but it's only, Foles only has 5 games that he's played that he started.
Yeah.
So it's Manning, it's Wilson. They're right neck and neck in most things. Obviously Manning's going to have more yards, more TDs. But as far as just winning the games and doing what your team needs to be done, that's what Wilson is doing. And also look at who they've played. We've had the Niners, we've had the Saints. Who the Broncos really have? They had the Chiefs twice. But other than that, they've had such a cake schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's everyone has tried to, again, we talked about devaluing the Seahawks. They have already gone and played Carolina. They only had Cam Newton only had 127 yards of total offense. It's just, again, there's things that they just seem to forget. They went on the road, beat the holy living molasses out of the Cards, and all of a sudden they're in the playoff race. They've already beaten the San Francisco 49ers and made them look like a school rec team. So, again, it's just these guys constantly are looking to devalue us. But a great website, I don't know if you've actually looked at it, but I use it on my site sometimes for the weekly breakdowns. But the Advanced NFL Statistics is a fantastic site to really look at some of those things we're talking about in finding value, really comparing and putting a lot of numbers together. Again, it's high-level mathematics, which I don't necessarily get into figuring out, but I like how they present it. And one player that's not talked about, and I really think of as a huge MVP to this team, is Doug Baldwin. Think about just those think about some of those catches he's made this season on the sidelines with his tippy toes that really affected drives that ended up getting us wins.
And it's the percentages too. I think last night was his the first targeted pass that he didn't catch all season. I think that was right.
It's not. That's not. But you're on the right track. It's literally the number's like 5 or something, like for the season.
Yeah. But as far as just his efficiency, yeah, it's Baldwin. While he's not having the numbers of all those other guys, like Calvin Johnson and Des Bryant, but yeah, he's moved the chains. He's been super efficient. He's been money. He's BB fresh. You know.
I do like him. I love how just when he does his interviews, it's not necessarily the monotone voice he has, but it's just this confidence, and he has that confident swagger that you would expect in a defensive player almost. And
yeah,
I love every single one of these guys, because every single one of these guys has character from the standpoint of they have a lively character, or what you're getting. They're interested. There's something interesting about them. I feel like last night was one of the best interview times for especially Earl Thomas. They spent a lot of time getting him out, and he was on all the shows, it seemed like. And his interviews were hysterical. I posted them on my site, 12for12s.com. They were hysterical. So, again, just overall, like you said, there's so many different places you could look for MVPs on this team. And overall, again, I don't care about the awards at the end of the season. The only one I care about, and I think they care about, is the one that says Lombardi on it. So there you have it. Well, Steve, we've come to the end, my friend, and I want to thank you again for being on. I didn't even take a break while we were chatting. It was so much fun.
Thanks a lot.
Please
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take a moment, if you don't mind, take a moment and give everybody that's listening, all your information about your website, your blog, and Twitter, and all your Facebooks and all that stuff, so they know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. It's the website is hawk.blogspot.com. That's Hawk, the T-E-Z, Tez. We all know who Tez is. Baugh, the B-A-U-G-H. My Twitter handle is at the Dirty Chinaman without the I, the D-R-T-Y Chinaman. That's all I have on the internet right there so far. I have not completed my internet domination yet, so I'm on the way.
Well, you're a funny man, and you got great writing. It's very fun to read, especially after the serious statistical breakdowns I do. So thank you. And
thank you, man.
Absolutely, brother. Have a great night. Go Hawks. Let's go beat some Niners up, make fun of them afterwards, and we will be chatting soon. Otherwise, we're going to go to a break, audience, 12for12s.com. Please visit, and this is 12 for 12 Show with Paul Byer. We'll be back in just a minute.